Welcome back to episode 94. Matt Kwan is a BJJ black belt and owner of On Guard BJJ in Maple Ridge in Metro Vancouver. He has previously been on our show in episode 3 and 21 back when I first started the podcast, and things have changed quite considerably since then, as he is now a black belt when he was not previously, and he has his own school that's been open for quite some time and has done quite well, as he is one of BC's top competitors for grappling in his weight class. So this podcast, for reasons, is kind of in two parts, but altogether the first half is for those who just want to hear us talk about BJJ and running a martial arts school. However, the second half, and you'll know when, is us talking about what's going on in the world right now. So if you don't want to listen to that because you're one of those idiots who thinks you should only ever stay in your wheelhouse and never discuss what's going on in the world, then just listen to the first half. But if you don't care, then listen to the whole thing. That is up to you. But here is something that Matt said in the podcast.
Do what you believe is right. Stand up for what you believe in. If you see something and you want to question something and you're not qualified to question it anyways. Open discourse, and even though we don't have it here in Canada, freedom of speech is an important part of Western civilization.
Okay, so there's your ready, set, go kind of mentality for this podcast. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions since 2013. Many ways you can support this podcast or Urban Tactics Krav Maga, some of them free, some of them less free. You can, of course, come train with us in person. Go to urbantacticskm.com and sign up for a trial class. There is a waiting list at the time of me posting this, as we have to restrict just how many people come in at once. Too many people is hard to handle, but that's due to a huge demand of people realizing things are going sideways and they want to learn to defend themselves now, not later. So you can just put yourself on the list if it's up there. If not, sign up for a free trial class. You can, of course, do something that's super free by following us, Urban Tactics Krav Maga, on Instagram or Facebook, and Twitter, I guess, Urban Tactics KM. That just repeats what we posted elsewhere because I don't engage in that cesspool of psychotic behavior. So it's there if you want to follow there. You can also follow along on my rantings and ravings and personal opinions on self-defense or other things on UTKMblog.com. I'm super happy that many of my students are starting to contribute about their experience and perspective. So every week we post some kind of blog post on a variety of topics. And of course, you can find the older episodes of this podcast on the blog, UTKMblog.com. The other thing is, if you have ever been trained in law enforcement, in martial arts, or just a civilian, and have had to use self-defense in an experience, I would love for you to submit to us a 500-word or more recount of how everything went, your training, how it went. It can be posted anonymously. That is not an issue at all, but we're looking to collect people's experiences so that anyone who has been attacked or been in a situation or had to use their training doesn't feel alone by seeing it happens to other people. You can submit such submissions to info@urbantacticscanada.com. Not all submissions will be submitted. If we do publish your submissions, then you will get 3 months free at our next thing, UTKMU.com. UTKMU.com is where I post my curriculum in video format as a supplement to your current Krav Maga training or other martial arts training, just to see the curriculum we're teaching and how we're teaching it. The more people that show their support for that, the more I will be putting more effort into building it up and making it a one-stop shop sort of thing, as my time is limited. So if you're interested in seeing more from that website, sign up at www.utkmu.com, either for the beginner or novice curriculum. Advanced curriculum will be available at some time. And I think that is it. Maybe. Oh, yes. Since I'm posting this earlier than I thought, we have an upcoming firearms course. If you want to get your firearms license, you can sign up on our website, Urban Tactics KM, and you click on the tab CF Canadian Firearms Safety Course acronym and Canadian Sticker Firearms Safety Course. The next course is in September on 25th and 26th. Get your firearms license now, not later, because you never know what could happen down the road. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in war. So get your skills now, because if you need them later, you will be sorry if you have the inability to do things. With that being said, you cannot purchase a firearm in Canada for the purpose of self-defense, but you can use it for sport shooting and hunting for non-restricted firearms. At least you'll learn that in the course. But you still want the tool if you ever need it, if things go crazy. Either way, the next course, sign up. You can also email us if you have questions, info@urbantacticscanada.com. If you want to check out Matt, and he has not completely put you off of training with him, you really should train with him. He's one of the best locally. You can go to their website at onguardfc.com. High quality grappling kids classes are back on at this time that I'm recording this. And you can, of course, follow him on Instagram at onguardbjj. That's where he posts a lot of the things he's saying in this podcast. Now, again, the first half of this podcast is about BJJ, running a martial arts school, how he's progressed. And the second half is, well, have fun, find out. But both me and him believe in freedom, and we do not like the direction that some people in this world seem to think it's okay to go. So, enjoy. Krav Maga is not just a self-defense system, it is a way of life. Warriors Den is a podcast for Kravists, fighters, martial artists, warriors, politicians, and general citizens. Consider this. The society that separates scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Lucidity. Your host, Jonathan Fader, talks to guests in an open and uncensored format about their fights, their philosophies, and their lives. No topic is taboo, and the conversation may start in one place and end in another. As the quote suggests, you cannot separate the warrior from the politics and the world around them, as a true warrior must be a student in all forms of art and science.
You're listening to The Warrior's Day. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions.
Okay, so welcome back. I am here with the most recorded guest on my podcast, Matt Kwan. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Jonathan? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I am excellent. So I just thought we'd get started. Since you've been on before, I'll skip the intro. I'll just reference the previous podcasts. But since I had you on, you've gotten your black belt and you've been running your school on guard for quite some time now, and you've been doing quite well. How's that journey been for you so far?
It's a fantastic journey. What a lifestyle I have, running my own business, just doing jiu-jitsu and teaching all day. It's a fantastic way to live. It's like I'm always on vacation. As many know, I was a chef before, pulling hard shifts in the kitchen, commuting downtown an hour each way every day for, quite honestly, not very much money at all. And it's a very stark contrast to now have the free time to explore jiu-jitsu, to study it, to think of better ways to teach it, to focus on my own training and to focus on side gigs such as the podcast and, whatever, right now I'm studying drums and guitar and just trying to, doing a bunch of fun stuff, and which I never had time for before. So, life's been good to me. Really enjoying being an entrepreneur and a gym owner. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a challenge for I often, let's like affiliation programs of any kind for any martial arts. Often I think where they fail is the actual sort of business aspect of running a business, because everyone wants to be a martial arts gym owner. And then, if in the fitness industry, 9 out of 10 businesses fail, the martial arts is even worse. So other than your amazing skill and ability to articulate from the business aspect of that, have you been getting help, or you just because you're so popular? What do you think?
It's kind of funny. I came up under people in different gyms. I switched gyms a few times, and a lot of different philosophies. Some of them were just about the training. Some of them were very much like, like, oh, I've went to a Lloyd Irving seminar
Mm.
on how to grow your business, how to really get as much growth as possible. So like I basically learned what I didn't want to do under
Mm.
these professors.
Yeah.
And yeah, my business model has been super simple from the beginning. I've tried the marketing stuff. I've tried hiring online marketers. I've tried, cards and flyers and all types of shit. Can I swear on this thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Fuck yeah, sweet. So I've spent thousands of dollars on marketing campaigns, and what I find is you just get a ton of leads, but
Mm.
you don't really get the quality you're looking for.
Yeah.
You'll get like 30 leads a month, but then you got to email them all. You got to try and convince them to come in, and it's a drag. You might get one or two coming in, and I realized, my business model is based more on my merit and what I can teach and my
Mm.
competition history, and just honestly reputation.
Mm.
At first it was difficult because at first when I was a brown belt and I just opened my school, I didn't really have a lot of reach. I still hadn't won the things I'd won. I wasn't really well known, at least in Vancouver, anyways. And I tried to use these marketing methods, and it was honestly an epic fail. It was a big waste of money. But my business is based on my reputation and what I can teach and what I can show on the mats. So now I'm at a point. I opened in 2015, so I'm 6 years in. Now the gym is like, it basically markets itself. Every
Mm.
time I go to a competition, I just did a competition 2 weeks ago, won the BCJJF
Yeah,
Absolute
I saw
title,
that.
the Nogi title, and stuff like that is great marketing for you. So a
Yeah.
lot of people basically um, having that kind of a reputation where you're a good instructor and good competitor, it kind of sells itself.
Yeah.
I would now rather have uh, you know, a few good leads a month come in and stay rather than 40 leads. I have no idea who they are. They give me some spiel about how they want to come into the gym and they want to become a fighter. And oh, I did a little bit of karate back in the day and now I'm ready to do this, or I'm really ready to get in shape. Like, these people never fucking show up. They
Yeah.
never show up. It's the people I used to write letters to people when they would, big emails and be like, yeah, jujitsu is a great art, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just like, yeah, if you want to train, just come in.
Uh,
Like, I'm not going to sell it to you.
yeah.
You're either going to haul your ass through the door and it's going to sell itself, or you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I actually want less people to come into my school. I only want good people at this point. It's kind of I got a pretty small school, so the overhead is pretty affordable and my profit margin is pretty good. But yeah, like, I only have people who are, people who want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, I'm not going to chase you to come into my gym. I'm not going to take your money. And having that honest, transparent business model of, hey, like, if you're not willing to put in the time and come in, just don't fucking come. Don't give
Yeah.
me this thing about how you're going to come in and train. And as a result, I get a lot of great people coming in,
Yeah.
and the parents that bring in their kids. It's the parents who want really good competition training. They want someone who's been a competitor for a while. They want their kids to train under someone like that. And the atmosphere and the level on the mats, even for the kids class, is fantastic. And of course, my my opinions on social media also tend to attract a certain crowd, and
Yeah.
it deters a certain crowd as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all positive for me. The people that disagree with me and wouldn't want to train at a place because of someone's opinions, they don't come. And it's better that way. I
Yeah.
actually prefer it that way. And people who see my opinions and they're like, wow, this guy like speaks his mind. Oh, I kind of agree with some of the things he says. They do come in, they bring their kids in, they bring their families in. And
Yeah.
as a result, it's a fucking awesome place to train. So
Yeah.
the whole jujitsu is for everyone. Yes, everyone, let's come and train under one roof. It's not really what I'm looking for particularly. So I don't
Yeah.
really fall under that business model.
I mean, I pretty much agree with the sentiment of most of what you said, because that's been my experience. I'm sure you get the marketing emails from like big American companies that are like, oh, it worked in New York. It's like, yeah, New York has 12 million people, dude. Anyone can open
Mm-hmm.
a gym and just like toss a coin out the window with toss a coin to your witcher and you have 100 students. And none of that
Yeah.
I found worked here. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately for me, in my case, Krav Maga is not still very well known and or popular. So I don't get the kind of numbers Jiu-Jitsu does. But it's been the same,
Mm-hmm.
the people who talk Like if I have to convince you to come in, there's other stuff going on. Either you're one of
Yeah.
those people who wants to check off a box on a list, or you have anxieties that, like, while I do have a background in psychology, and I will talk to you about your anxieties if you want to, or I'll just throw them at them. Like, I can't spend all my time trying to convince you to get your ass in the gym. Actually, I asked a question. One of my students admitted, they've been around a while now. They admitted that they'd actually stared at my website for like a year or two before they had the courage to come in.
Yeah.
And I just casually asked a class, and there was a good class. I had like 30 people that day, and I was basically asking, like, oh, I heard some people like do that, and I was looking at the person who did that because they openly admitted it. And then a whole bunch of people raised their hands saying they did the same thing. And that's what you run into a lot, is there is the people who are going to come and just do it. The people who want to do it, but they need a little bit coaxing. But then most people are full of shit. That's why I think, in the martial arts community, we get that pyramid: 10,000 people walk in the door, one will be a black belt, and it's just the reality of martial arts. And it's actually a mistake that I made opening a gym. I'm like, oh yeah, Krav Maga is popular. People are going to come. They're going to come in the door. And I didn't realize, unless you have a huge name in any style, you have to take the 10, 15 years to build up a gym to the point where you have brown, black belts.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. Well, I guess I'm in this for the long haul.
For sure. One of the things about having a merit-based business model rather than just trying to overload my mats with leads is people who want good training come to me. So I get a lot of transplants from other gyms that are blue, purple. I've even had brown belts come to my gym. So it's like, I did luckily kind of forego that whole starting from white belt thing. I mean, as the owner and as the head instructor, it is up to me to make it an environment where these people want to come and then stay. And so that is my responsibility as well. But I've been extremely fortunate to have the team that I have. The guys that come in are quite often, they have some experience, or they just have a very open mindset, and they're very coachable. So I don't have a lot of guys that are like uncoachable or difficult to work with. Almost, in fact, pretty much everyone I can think of is just a pleasure to train with here. And it's just a fantastic training environment. Yeah. And I've been extremely fortunate with the people that have come into my school.
Yeah. I mean, there is that, you mentioned earlier, like, it's a self-selection thing. If you do the jiu-jitsu for everyone, then you have to be like generic, versus if you create like a real
can't be controversial
culture. Yeah, right. Like, I'm controversial as fuck, as you know. But I found like the people self-select. Like, I've had like very left-wing students, and I'll teach everyone. I say, all I ask is like, hey, because I know, because I'm teaching self-defense, not jiu-jitsu, I do get into politics when I'm teaching because it is extremely relevant, despite what people think. And I'll say,
everyone says don't talk about religion or politics or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'd rather have an environment where we can talk, we can joke with people, we can poke fun and have that kind of energy, where we push in each other. And I come from kitchens, I have a very kind of a gallows humor, and I get a lot of flack for it. A lot of people are, oh, you don't want to do this to your business. You don't want to. I'm like, well, I just don't want those fucking people here. I want people who are fun to talk to, intelligent people who don't get offended and can hear. Like, I don't care what political affiliation or identity you have. I don't care what race or religion you are. I'm not a bigot. I'm not racist or prejudiced at all. Everyone's allowed in my school. I don't give a fuck who you are. But if you take offense to shit, you're in the wrong place. This is essentially a kitchen, like this is my kitchen brigade. I'm the head chef. And that doesn't mean that I tolerate any harassment. You know what I mean? Like, I have a zero tolerance policy for bullying, harassment. Obviously, I know this is probably new to the fight sports crowd, but sexual harassment should just naturally not be allowed in gyms. That shouldn't be a new policy, Cyborg and Wagner. It should be already part of your gym. It's called common sense. You shouldn't allow sexual harassment or especially sexual harassment to a minor. That shouldn't be something that you have. And now all of a sudden, we have a new policy where we're not allowing sexual harassment to minors and females or whatever.
Maybe it's a Florida
thing. It's called
thing,
common sense. Hey, sorry.
De La Riva's in Florida, and that happened to him too. For the
Yes.
non-jiu-jitsu people who don't know, there was just a huge story of a high-level black belt instructor at a very well-known, reputable gym that was what was it, 16-year-old? He was grooming her or something. Like,
I believe it's Claudio Doval, I believe her
oh,
name is.
that's
And
that's De La Riva, but I'm talking
yeah, that's
about
De La Riva.
the
Okay, you're talking about at Cyborg Gym. And again,
cyborg.
Cyborg and Wagner,
Yeah,
they are not, I don't think they're abusers,
no,
but they knowingly covered up
yeah,
for abuse that was going on with one of the female students who I believe started training when she was 10, and then she got abused when she was 16, if my story's correct. And
yeah,
it's just like,
something
and then
like
they
that.
put out this statement about how, oh, we've learned, we've listened, and we've learned, and now there's going to be a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment at our gym.
Yeah,
It's like, what a fucking bad look, like for your
yeah.
school. This is common sense that you shouldn't be sexually assaulting minors or females. You fucking idiots.
Yeah,
What are you
well,
doing?
minors is a bit of an obvious one, and it's like, how
Yeah.
do you not pick up that one?
Yeah. And
The
then to cover for multiple black
yeah,
belts who have been accused of doing this is just like I loved Cyborg and Wagner. I love their styles. I've trained with Cyborg. He came up here for a seminar. It was fantastic. He beat the fuck out of me. It was
yeah,
like really great. And to learn about this is just like, man, how do you let that happen? If
yeah,
it was my own best friend that did something like that, he's got to pay the consequences.
mm,
There's no covering up. There's no, pedophilia. Fuck, get the hell out of here. What are you
yeah.
doing?
Now, with
I'll
that
turn your
being
ass
said,
in.
obviously we're both against that kind of behavior, but the question of female students in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes up. Now, I don't really understand it because I'll roll with women and I'll roll relative to what they can handle. But I had it's a very well-known belt, the color belt here, and I was rolling with her, and she's tough, man. And I was rolling with her and giving her like good feedback, like as far as resistance, and I'm trying to get her. It's like, John, what the fuck? You're trying to like really go after me? Like, why are you being so hard? I'm like, because you'll choke me out. You're that good. Like, I'm
Hmm.
respecting it. But I
Hmm.
feel like maybe she was saying that because a lot of guys don't want to go hard on her.
Hmm.
So, like, I'll just feel and see where they at, and I'll go accordingly. But I do think there are a lot of guys who just don't know how to roll with women reasonably.
Hmm.
What do you think about that sort of topic that's coming up now because of this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you don't have a lot of experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're not going to be as good of a training partner as someone who's done it for 10 years. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule. There's black belts that roll like fucking idiots. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. But I think learning how to be a good training partner is part of the skill set that is learning how to be good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not only are you learning how to be good and proficient at Jiu-Jitsu or learning how to teach Jiu-Jitsu or learning how to be a business person, if that's your choice you want to do, but you
mm,
also have to learn how to be a good drilling partner, a good uke, a good training partner. And that part of that is when you're rolling with a lower rank or someone who's much smaller than you or older than you or even females, like you do have to modify your training sometimes. I'm not saying there's girls out there who fuck me up.
yeah,
Obviously, locally, I don't really roll with any that can fuck me up, but I know on a world stage, there certainly are women that could. And
mm,
so the majority of the women that I roll with, I generally could beat up if I wanted to. And being a good training partner is understanding, okay, like I have to make this training as best for them as I possibly can. And part of that is letting up, and part of that is knowing when to push them, right? And
mm,
if they're always rolling with dudes who don't know how to push them because they're scared that they're going to offend them or whatever, right away they're going to have a different mindset than if everyone just tries to beat the fuck out of them, which is also the other side of the coin, which is bad. If you're
mm.
at a gym where guys have no idea how to be a good training partner, and then they're just constantly trying to beat up everyone at the same level.
There
So they
are
roll
those
with a
guys.
big
Yeah,
brown belt real hard, and then they go with like a small female blue belt and they roll just as hard. That's clearly
yeah,
just shows inexperience on their part as a training partner, right? So especially after this Wagner and Cyborg stuff and the De La Riva stuff, I know some people have said, "Oh, I'm not I'm just not going to roll with women. It's just not
yeah,
worth it to roll with women. They get offended, or I don't want to be accused of a sexual assault or whatever cop in a feel." And I disagree with that. The women that I've trained with, the vast majority of them have been super cool. And I set that environment in the gym like, hey, you know, I'm not going to lie, it's a male dominated gym. Everyone's welcome, and I encourage females to come out and train, but you know, we're not going to, I try and push that mindset where we will keep everyone safe, whether you're female, male, big, small, old, young, doesn't matter. Keep everyone safe and have good training. And so that doesn't mean let's coddle women, and it doesn't mean let's go super hard on women. It's just treat them like equals and judge accordingly. So I think it's, personally for me, I think it's kind of crazy when people don't want to train with women for the said reasons. You know, I think this is one of the most important skills that a woman or a person, but specifically a woman, can learn, you know, how to defend yourself when you're underneath someone or on your back. And one of my main goals, hopefully by the end of my career, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I can look back and say, I influenced the female jiu-jitsu scene in Vancouver greatly. And specifically, I'd like to create some badass female instructors, because there's definitely an underrepresentation of females in this city and as gym owners. And that's one of my goals, is to change that.
Yeah, no, I think it's very much about environment. Like when I opened up, I originally thought, oh, it's going to be a lot of young males, but then I actually started with middle-aged males, often whom had been in assault situation. And as I grew, I was quite happy that I had like 1/3 women just inherently over the years. And I was like, great, because I'm teaching self-defense. They need it more than guys do a lot of the time. And I think
generally,
when you look at gyms that are all men, like, as I know, like if you are a woman coming in, or even like a smaller male, you look and it's all athletic guys at a club, it can be extremely intimidating. But if, you know, I think even in a competitive gym, if everyone's like smiling and like welcoming and, hey, come in, and everyone talks to each other, then I don't think there is an issue. There shouldn't be an issue with women being comfortable in the gym, you know, based on my experience with my gym.
100% agree with you. Yeah. You know, for the longest time, I said I would never do a female only class, because I felt that I wanted like a co-ed environment. I really wanted it. I truly believe that the best training women can get is training with men. You know, it's more realistic. Yeah. It's more difficult, essentially. It's just a different beast. But recently came to the realization, you know, if I keep this mindset up where I'm not going to have a women's only class, essentially just less women are going to learn jiu-jitsu geographically around my gym. And I'm not about that. So I did open a women's only class a couple months ago, and it's awesome. You know, we're building a women's team, which hopefully I would want to see them progress to a co-ed situation. But you know, that sometimes it's just, I understand, you know, it's intimidating for anyone to go into a school and, you know, do any martial art, but especially martial art where you're getting smothered and sweated on by these beasts, you know, and it's like, it's fucking hard. It's intimidating. And I understand why women would want to be in a more comfortable training environment. So I've definitely shifted my stance on that for a while, and I'm glad I did it. And hopefully, you know, my goal is, like I said, that some women really take to the lifestyle of jiu-jitsu. They really, I come across a student or students who want to make this their career, and I can help them, you know, get to that journey. That would be a dream come true for me.
Yeah. And I mean, I still have that sentiment. Like, if I run a self-defense seminar, personally, I don't like the women's only stuff. And part of it is my experience is it just turns into a gossip fest, and no one's really challenging each other physically. And I don't like that, because they're not getting real feedback. But I think with jiu-jitsu, because of the intimate nature of grappling, that there is that comfort level for a lot of women. Because I know some people who've been sexually assaulted, and I tried to get them into jiu-jitsu, and they're like, no, I don't want to. And it's completely understandable. So I think because of the intimate nature of jiu-jitsu, having women's only is a little bit better. But for like, if I'm running a general self-defense seminar, I really do not like that. Yeah. Because like if say I'm running a seminar, like a 4-hour seminar or whatever, and this is any martial art, I'm doing a seminar, I know how to defend myself. No, you don't. You need to give them like the reality now as quickly as possible. Because, you know, let's even talk size difference in men, like Mikey Mustremi, who would kick the crap out of me for sure. You'd last much better against him, but when he went open class, he got smashed by some no-name, like, overweight
giant guy.
Yeah, right. And it just shows you like the size does matter. No matter what anyone says, and from a pure self-defense perspective, you need to understand that, and you need to understand that rapidly. Is that fly driving you nuts?
There's a fucking fly in here who's like landing on me. It's so annoying. I'm trying. You know how fucking hard it is to kill a fly? Like
Oh yeah.
mosquitoes are dumbasses, but flies are just like I don't know what it is. You just
Well,
can't hit them.
oh, what I saw something. You have to like if you do a clap, you have to do it right above them or below them because they have some instinct where they can read the air pressure and they instinctually move. So if you do it above or below, they move into the clap, but you have to time it right. Uh,
Interesting, yeah.
I'm not very good at doing it. I've seen people do it quite successfully. So
But yeah,
once you
I definitely agree with you. You know, like size matters, man. I remember when like that was one of the selling points when I was a white belt was like, oh, if you do this martial arts, you know, that the whole point is that you can beat a bigger opponent. It's not wrong, you know,
yeah,
you can totally. But at the black belt level, fuck, it's hard. You know,
yeah,
it's size definitely matters. And is you know, if you are a woman and you're training in a room full of women, you don't really get the same, you know, you're not going to get the like quite often you're not going to see a woman get sexually assaulted by another woman. And I'm not saying
mhm,
that happens, but I'm definitely saying the majority of sexual assaults against women are from men, you know,
yeah.
someone bigger and potentially stronger. And you need that training so that when that situation happens, you have the stress inoculation training to go against someone much bigger and stronger. And that's kind of the point of jujitsu, right? But like at
Mm,
the higher levels, man,
yeah.
size totally matters.
But, you know, because it's like sort of like any martial arts, is the that'll never work, bro. And people
Yeah.
don't understand context at all about anything. And one of the issues between like MMA fighters, jujitsu guys, you know, the more practical martial arts that have a higher success rate, they always make the assumption there's you're so used to training with other trained individuals that you fail to understand that while you can beat the average untrained individual on a one-on-one, you'll be caught off guard by patterns and behaviors that you're not expecting. And a
Mm,
big part of, say, self-defense is the element of surprise. Like I just did a podcast with an instructor in Australia, and he had a very good point, is that the initial situation is always self-defense. You know, it's quick, it
mhm.
either stops or it doesn't start. And once it's in a back and forth situation, now you're in a fight. But in a self-defense scenario, you have the option to run. So if you're then
Mm.
choosing to stay in that back and forth and do a test of skill, you're not really doing self-defense, you're gambling with your skill over their skill. And I find a lot of in martial arts, jujitsu and MMA guys, especially nowadays, are like, you know, Krav Maga is bullshit. I'm like, okay, can I kick you in the nuts as hard as I can
Yeah,
and
exactly.
see what happens? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, if you square up against me, I guarantee you're not expecting me to do that. Even though you know I do it, you're so used to people trying to do other stuff that if I do
Yeah.
something that you're not used to, you're gonna be thrown for a loop. And that to me is like the self defense thing. So like I don't know why I did. I got in an argument with someone on Instagram. I think it was like some teenage kid. He's like, "That'll never work, bro." And I'm like, you know what? Like, it was to do with someone coming up behind you doing a rear naked choke standing. And I'm like, and I always preface this in self defense: if someone gets behind you, no matter what, you already screwed up. What
Yeah.
you're relying on is the fact that they're not as good as they think they are, and you have a second to do like a drop senagi or reversals.
Right.
And he's like, no, that'll never work, bro. I'm like, you know, drop senagi is a high percentage move in high level judo, right? And they're
It
just
totally
like,
works.
it's like idiots because people just assume, oh, yeah. I'm like, listen, if a malicious person with intent to kill you gets behind you, or it's Gordon Ryan, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But like that sort of difference between reality versus what works in the ring or what works in competition, I think it's one of the hardest things for people to get around. It's like you actually on your podcast that you had Lachlan Giles on, and he was saying that as good as he is in his gym, his everyone can shut down his game, but then he goes to another gym and he can submit everyone because people get used to the particular movement styles. It's
Yes.
like Mike Hansen and his triangles. Like I can stop them now because I know he's gonna do that. But he goes to other gyms and he catches a lot of people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things about jujitsu is like it's sold as this uh highly effective self-defense system, which it is. Like
Yeah.
against an untrained individual, yeah, it's totally effective. Um but you go against someone who doesn't want to be on the floor, or like a wrestler who just is like, no, I'm just going to stand up. It's like,
Yeah.
and all you've done is practicing pulling guard. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there goes your whole strategy. Like, you can't wrestle this person to the floor now.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to jump guard or pull guard, which is, it has its own dangers. So it's like what Danaher says, right? When he's comparing MMA to jiu-jitsu, he's like, in jiu-jitsu, there's a unspoken rule that one person will concede the bottom position and now the other person takes the top position. There's a gentleman's agreement, right? That I'm going to be on the bottom now. It's like, you don't want to do that in the street, you know? So I think jiu-jitsu is a fantastic self-defense situation, or a part of a system, part of a great self-defense system, but it's definitely not, it's far from complete, you know? And as long as you understand its limitations and its strengths, and you understand where you want to be in a fight and where you don't want to be, you can totally use it to your advantage. But if all you're used to is, you know, fighting for advantages and pulling guard and stuff like that, I mean, it's not the best look for self-defense. Like you said, you could just get kicked in the dick and then you're fucked, right? So as long as you understand that the limitations are there, you know, you can be more aware should a situation happen.
Yeah. Now the other thing I want to bring up before we get into some controversial shit was the no gi versus gi. Obviously, your preference is no gi. Why that?
I mean, so here's the thing. If I had my choice, and I always say this to my students, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy, because most people in my school love no gi more. And we train no gi, I would say probably like 70% of the time or 60% of the time. The other 30 or 40% we train gi. But I always say, like, if I was going to be the best in the world at gi or no gi, I'd way rather be better at gi, just because I think it's so fucking cool and beautiful, and brutal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I'm just better for no gi. Obviously the leg locks over the last few years has really become like one of my best attack vectors. So I'm very, very confident in my heel hooks and my leg lock defense. You know, my fingers are all fucked up from the gi, so that also is a limitation. Like, I don't have very strong grips. I know some people that have freakishly strong grips, which
fucking
are just
rock climbers, those assholes.
Totally. And it's such an advantage. It's such an advantage in the gi to have strong grips, and I don't have that. So, you know, naturally I feel like I'm already at a disadvantage in that way. But I think the gi is much harder. I think no gi is way easier. For me, it's just simpler for me, and I find it easier to pin people and hold them down in no-gi. So, which is weird, right? Usually we're like, oh, the gi, you know, you can really hold someone down. I think the thing about no-gi is, if I get pinned in no-gi, very difficult for someone to hold me down. I feel like I can always escape, I can always move. But in the gi, I've been in competitions where I've got my guard passed, and then I'm just like, I literally can't move for the rest of the match. Like I'm fucking held down. And it's brutal, right? So I just think for my style and for the techniques that I use, no-gi is more of a natural fit. But I love them both. I'll never stop doing either of them, and I want to compete in both of them as long as I can.
Yeah. For me, it's like I prefer gi because I'm not athletic. I do not have explosion, and I want to stop and work the sort of technical stuff as much as I can.
He is much more static, you know?
Yeah. I just don't have the athletic. Like, I gas so fast in no-gi. That's how you beat me, guys. I just gave it away. Beat my gas tank, and you'll beat me.
Exactly.
But you know, I think like because gi is like a little bit. It's more, I think, universally usable across the board for, say, self-defense, because the wrestling aspect, and you don't need the jacket. However, you know, like self-defense aspects, it's like, where are you? Because the whole no gi versus gi for self-defense, I'm like, if you're in Vancouver in the winter, a gi is a good option. If you're in Brazil, well, everyone's in board shorts and
on the beach.
You know, on the beach. So then the gi actually, ironically, doesn't work as well in that situation.
I always just thought, like, I want to be good everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you never see me wrestle in competition generally, because it's not my strength, but like I can wrestle. I can do a bit of judo. I can go on the back. I can play guard. I can do leg locks, upper body attacks. Like, I'm pretty decent everywhere. And my approach from the beginning has always been just do both. You know, I have students that just want to do gi. I have more than that, I have students who just want to do no-gi. And I'm like, you guys, like, it's better to do both. Like, it's not one or the other. If a guy's wearing a jacket and you don't know how to manipulate it and use it, like, you're at a disadvantage. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to use someone's clothes against them? And that being said, if we're on the beach and someone tries to, do something, like, you also need to know how to train without the gi. So it's, for me, I think it's just better to have a wide view of grappling in general and have skill sets in every aspect. And that includes gi and no gi, but that's just me. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, because Krav is like master of all, or, jack of all trades, rather, master of none kind of thing. Cause you need to be able to deal with the most amount of situations reasonably well. And then you can specialize in whatever style you want. But I think for overall grappling, that's probably the best, do more of what you like. And then a little bit of like, my leg lock game is shit because I haven't done it in a while. But if I go up against one of you guys, I'm like, and I know that's what you're doing, I'm like, keep the feet away, keep my hips away, completely change how I normally roll just because I know what you guys are going to be doing.
Totally. And I think gi and no gi, when I first started jiu-jitsu, we basically trained no gi like we did in the gi, just without the jacket. So we're playing like tons of De La Hiva and like, guards that just aren't really, I'm not going to say De La Hiva, you can't do it in no gi, but I will say it's certainly not as effective as it is in the gi. Yeah. And, now we're seeing now with guys like Gordon, Ryan, and Gary Tonin that, like, no, the sport is literally different. Like, it's the same sport. I always use the analogy ice hockey versus foot hockey, right? Or ball hockey. It's like, it's the same sport. Yes. But it requires totally different skill sets. Like skating and shooting a puck is very different from running and shooting a ball. It's completely different. It's like, I played hockey and roller hockey growing up. I remember I played a pickup game of ball hockey and like I fell on my face when I tried to shoot the ball because I'm used to coasting. And it's so different, right? So it's like the attack vectors and the strategy and the skill set is completely different gi and no gi. The off balances and the gripping situations are just totally different. So, we know that now. We've seen it at the highest level in competition. And if you're an instructor that pays attention to the most current strategies and competitions, then you're going to make those adjustments and teach them accordingly to your students.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do the fun stuff. Here we go. As a gym owner, COVID been for you?
I don't know how much information I should give out here.
Whatever's not going to get you sued.
I don't give a fuck. Basically, when we found out COVID was happening a few years ago, I was very reluctant. Like, from the beginning, I basically thought this is being overhyped, and it's because I don't trust the media. I certainly don't trust anything coming out of China. And I'm Chinese, so if you think I'm a racist, go fuck yourself. I can say whatever I want about China, okay? I love the people of China. The government of China is a dictatorship. It's fucking quasi-communist, and it's they're genociding Uyghur Muslims right now as we speak. So let's just say whatever the fuck we want about China. Plus, they're responsible for this virus, right? At least that's how I understand it. And I didn't think that this was going to be as crazy, but everyone was telling me, man, like, we got to worry about this COVID thing. It's coming. And I'm just like, holy fuck, like, you guys are, we're really taking this serious. Okay. Well, I wanted to be safe, and I closed down my gym for a couple months, with thinking that we flattened the curve or whatever the fuck they said, that we could keep the hospital beds, available for people who needed it. Like, I wanted to do the right thing. Took financial hits and all this shit, just like everyone else running a small business, especially in our industry or in my previous industry, which is the culinary arts. So both of my careers in my life have been heavily affected by COVID. Right. We reopened or whatever that summer. The restrictions started to lift, and, we were training, and then it got shut down again. And then we basically just said, okay, we're going to create like a skeleton crew and come in and train and have a secret knock and board up the windows or whatever. And because at that point we had data, we could see that like 99 point whatever percent of people were recovering from this thing. And it's funny, the people in the jiu-jitsu community, like I think the majority of them, and this could be just me trapped in my echo chamber, right? Like the majority of them I find are down to train. They understand the risk and they're down to train. A lot of people though, I can see there's a lot of people that I'm not going to mention on this podcast, but they're very like adamant about like, no, like shit, like you're killing someone's grandma if you're doing this, you fucking asshole, and just like it got so crazy and so polarized.
Well, it's getting more
and
crazy.
It's getting crazier, right? And I just told the people in my group, I'm like, listen, guys, we're gonna open, and you have to understand the risks. You're adults, you can make your own decisions. If you don't want to train, don't come in because you understand the risks, and I'm never going to judge you for that. And if you do want to train, let's get some training in. And then we've been operating, and flash forward to now, they're making us wear masks and vaccine passports. I'm supposed to be the one who checks the papers at the door and say, hey, show me your passports so I can make sure that you're vaccinated. Like, you know what? I'm just not going to fucking do that. The leaders of our government are a bunch of incompetent bitches. Yeah. And I'm not going to do that for them. And
I'm going to say something that I sent some angry emails out the other day. No shocker from me. And I actually got a response from my local NDP. I haven't responded yet. Here's what they did. They're playing a little bit of a bullshit game. So when our local fearless leader, Bonnie Henry, who I believe is a liar at this point.
I never liked her. I have all these friends who are like, oh, I think she did such a good job. She
didn't do anything.
And then aside from get fucking paid, right? And then now all these friends are like, hey, I don't like what she's doing. I'm like, yeah, I'm just ahead of schedule, you fucking assholes. And like, you guys, you want to just virtue signal and say, oh yeah, I stayed home. I kept everyone safe. It's like, you didn't do shit. You just don't accomplish shit in life, and you want to feel like you did something good by doing nothing. Go fuck yourself.
What happened? I'll say what I was going to say, but what happened in my theory, hypothesis for those who are being obnoxious about it. We have a very large Chinese community. They were terrified from what they were hearing from their family. They, without being told, panicked and just stayed to themselves, which stopped the issue. And that's why the initial wave, we were fine. Because they were self-isolating themselves, which obviously if you lock everyone in their houses for a year, the virus has no food. That's just how that works. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So when Bonnie Henry said 2 months ago, we will not do vaccine passports, the response I got from an NP was, well, passports are managed by the federal government. We have nothing to do with that. We're not restricting your rights. I'm like, you motherfuckers, I see what you did there. They said, legally speaking, they're protected because they can't enforce passports because passports would not be in their jurisdictions and it would actually violate the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But a BC vaccine card, now that we can do. We wouldn't force anyone to get the vaccine. It's like, no, but you're pitting people against each other. And in argument I got with my fellow Jews when I called them Nazis, and I'm not apologizing for that.
Sure, that went over real well.
No, they all think I'm a lunatic. But I basically pointed out to them, you all don't like me anyway. From before, I don't give a fuck. And from their comment, I'm seeing they very much misunderstand these policies. One of them seems to believe that this policy prevents you from going anywhere. And I'm like, it doesn't. Because legally, they can't stop us from going on the bus. They can't stop people who are unvaccinated from going
or go province to province.
They can't stop them from going province. They can't stop them from going to the supermarket. They're like, you should just stay home. And I didn't even say what my status or not, because I'm not putting my medical, regardless of what I am or am not. And they just assume that this meant people can't go to the grocery store. And so what's happening is people who are anxiety ridden and like saying, we need to do this to save everyone. I'm like, listen, I don't know. I posted a video like a year and a half ago from I believe she's a virologist. I didn't agree with everything she said. She said, listen, masks don't work. Shutting the borders doesn't work. At this point, at the start, I was using them because I wasn't sure. And then I found out, oh shit, there's actually a whole tons of research on this. And one recent study, someone actually did the balls, the University of Waterloo basically proved that for this virus, people need to really understand, for this virus, not other viruses, this virus.
Yeah.
It was 10% efficacy for the medical masks and 50 for N95s. That's in ideal lab conditions. Now, what I've been saying, a lot of people if you want to discredit me, I did occupational health and safety. A large percentage of what we studied was mask use in the workplace for
And
serious
how they're
things,
fucking misused,
and
how
how
people are
they, yeah,
touching them
yeah,
and fucking hanging them on their car mirror and
yeah,
using them again and leaving
yeah.
them in the street. It's like, bitch,
So
that's a biohazard,
it
isn't it?
doesn't
I
work.
thought that
Yeah,
shit's like Ebola virus there. You're just leaving your mask.
basically.
Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I said at the start, if this virus is as bad as they say it is, you need to go get a half-face mask respirator at the minimum. And that still applies today. If you are that concerned about this virus, you need to be walking around with one of those masks because these other ones don't do shit. And then there's also the exposure thing. So, like, if you go into the supermarket for 15 minutes and you're wearing a mask, it's okay. But the idea that you are going to wear a mask all day in an office with a recirculating air thing and somehow it's going to protect you is absolute nonsense. It's just
Or the
not
plexiglass.
really. Which
That's my
turned out to be
favorite.
worse. Yeah.
That's my favorite, the plexiglass. Like,
Yeah.
holy fuck, what are we doing?
The New York Times, of all things, wrote an article saying that it actually might have made things worse because it impedes
Yeah.
airflow. I was like, no shit.
Yeah, because it restricts airflow or because it harbors bacteria or viruses. What is it?
Because it restricts airflow. Because factually, that the more airflow you have, the less the virus load can concentrate on people. So if you have restricted airflow, it does. That's why being in an office it will be more of an issue. But the masks aren't going to do anything. And I'm actually my happiest thing that came out of this is the realization. I've been saying this for years that for a lot of jobs, you don't need to be in the fucking office all goddamn day. That's just a babysitting strategy. So I'm happy to see virtual is coming or working from home. It's a much better way to operate if you are able to. Obviously, not all jobs can. But when I argue with people and they throw in that same argument, someone threw a New York Times argument at me. My wife threw a from Science Magazine, one of the two most respected magazines, back at them. And their response was, "You're not a doctor. You don't understand that." It's like, I'm sorry. What are you telling me as an educated individual? I can't read and understand scientific literature. They fall back on that defense as if nobody can understand what's being written. And I'm like, I'm actually reading the scientific literature. I'm not listening to the chosen experts who are manipulating the data.
Oh God. This whole trust the science thing. I mean, I love science. I love the idea of science and always trying to break theories. That's how when we discover something new in jiu-jitsu, we use science to break the new technique. Yeah. And like, this whole thing about science, how if you disagree with Fauci or Bonnie Henry, you don't trust science. Listen, you guys are in a fucking cult. And for me to not be able to question something, even though I'm not a virologist or whatever, you're off your fucking rocker. Yeah. I mean,
which hilariously enough, the virologist, immunologist keep saying it's an endemic, and it's an endemic. These policies aren't working. They're the ones getting ignored.
Right. And like we can observe the recovery rate. We can observe the mortality rate. We can observe the number of deaths and weigh that against lockdowns and other harsh restrictions and say for ourselves as a citizen, as a tax paying citizen, we're all supposed to be fucking equal. If you can do that, how come I can't have an opinion on that just because I didn't go to school and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and I don't wear a lab coat and I'm not on TV saying this? Like, no, I can choose who I want to trust. I can see lies that certain media outlets, honestly, all of them, I don't even know what to believe anymore, but I can choose to not listen to media outlets. And I can see that whether or not you are a scientist or whatever, you can be purchased. You can carry a political agenda and be paid for it. And you can be capable of being a piece of shit human being. And I don't have to follow the narrative. I thought we were supposed to have freedom of expression and free. I'm not into groupthink. Yeah. I've studied enough history where I've seen where that leads us.
Gene. The fuck you, Gene.
I do, and I get a lot of heat for it, man. Like people hate it. A lot of people, I've lost a lot of friends and quite honestly, family too. I've had issues with my family through this whole thing, and it is what it is. I'm honestly like I'm a man of principle, and I'm not going to comply to something that I think. People are like, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just go along with it? It'd be so much easier. It's like, yeah, it would be easier. And I'd fucking hate myself.
Yeah.
So no, like and I feel like it's wrong. And if it's not right, if something is holding me back, I don't feel the social shame that I'm not going to speak my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought when we were a kid, we were taught, stand up for what you believe in, stand up for what you believe is right. We're all created equal. We all have freedom of expression. And these fucking assholes want to villainize you for having a different opinion from them. And they want to call you things like anti-science, anti-vaxxer. Like, for the record, by the way, for the people who don't know my opinion, I am pro-vaccine. I'm pro-vax. My kids are vaccinated. I'm totally, if you want to get the COVID vaccine, good for you. But to mandate vaccines and to create a two-tier class system where certain people aren't allowed to go into a. By the way, I think even non-vaccine passport carrying people can still go in grocery stores. I think that's one of the places you can go.
Yes, you can go
that and
much
places of
places.
worship, right?
Yeah.
Which my gym is. It's a place of worship, so loophole. But yeah, like where was I going with that? I'm not pro mandatory vaccine. I'm pro freedom. I'm pro smaller government. We've seen the fucking cunts leading our country are so they're so incompetent, and even people on the left that I have arguments with about COVID think that, and I'm like, so why are we going along with this? Why aren't we looking at our leaders and say, hey, you guys are fucking dividing us, and we're leading down a path where you guys are just getting more and more control and misusing our money. Like, if this was back in the day, we would literally string you up in the street. And I'm not going to say we should do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Not today, but back in the day.
I'm not, but definitely I'm not really a fan of our leadership right now. And I'm also not a fan of how there's been a lack of representation from what I believe is the silent majority of people who should be speaking against stuff like this. Because after my recent social media stories, like, I get so many messages from people saying, thank you for speaking up. It's so great to hear, for every one message I get of someone criticizing me, I get like 50 messages from people saying, yes, I agree with you. Thank you for, it's great to have someone saying something like this. And my response is like, why the fuck aren't you saying something? Why aren't we doing something? I 2 years ago when this was happening, like, I saw what the lockdowns would do. It would have huge economic problems. Like, we're about to feel the long dick of the fucking lockdowns, man.
Things are going to go. I've been saying this for a while. Like, unrelated to COVID, because I've listened to, like, the Davos idiots, like the economists. Like, these are the people who make the decisions, and these people have been saying, like, our economic model is not working and we don't know what to do about it anymore because there's so many people, the technology has changed things. And then COVID has just exacerbated the fact that our system isn't working. No, we shouldn't go fucking progressive losers, but something needs to change. And what you're going to see, regardless of COVID, you just sped it up. I think we're in the
Great Reset.
A 10 to 20 year period of, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be like the last 30 years of peace. It's going to be getting aggressive, and governments are even going to go more authoritarian, or things are just simply going to collapse because they're dividing people. And my thing is, I want better education, not indoctrination, and you guys need to back off, because the idea that the smartest people in the world, even as smart as they are, can anticipate all possible variables is ridiculous, and you're likely to actually screw things up more if you pigeonhole everything into one solution, like the vaccine. For COVID, specifically for COVID-19, it's not like other vaccines. I don't even like calling it a vaccine anymore, because if it's something you have to get annually, sorry guys, ain't a vaccine. It's an inoculation. It helps boost the immune system. Yes, for a lot of people, it's a very helpful tool. But hey, let's look at all of the data, a shit ton of data, a crap load more than that, that's saying, hey, if you guys stay healthy and exercise, you'll be just fine if you get COVID, minus the odd person who's an outlier who unfortunately hit the genetic lottery in the wrong way. And people don't want to talk about that. And it's just like health and wellness. This is the biggest fuck up in COVID, as far as I'm concerned, is they did not say, hey, you know what, we're doing lockdowns, but hey, we're going to pay for you to get access to Zoom HIIT classes. We're going to pay for you guys to get access to nutritionists, and we're going to use this as an opportunity to get people healthy. I mean, yeah, there's
It's
nothing.
not about health, though.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not about
It's not.
health, because you could still go to the liquor store. You could get, the government doesn't care if you drink every morning, 7 days a week, or smoke 2 packs a day, or eat McDonald's 3 times a day. The government doesn't care.
You get riots if you did that. That's the thing. I know there is actually a legitimate case for the actual alcoholics, but like in a grand scheme of things, they could have easily have just said, "Hey, if you're an actual alcoholic registered in the medical system, we will make sure they can't go cold turkey. They cannot."
Yeah.
But the reason why they don't close the liquor stores is because in times of stress, people want to drink. They want that escape. They would have had riots on their hands if they. I don't think anywhere closed liquor stores, like anywhere.
Well, okay, like obviously they're never going to close liquor stores, and nor do I think they should be closed. I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying like things like, I remember the restrictions last year. They were like, you can't go to the park, you can't go to an outdoor place where there's sunlight, you can't go to the gym. Like literally the reverse of what I believe we should be doing, and
based on actual science, by the way, not opinion.
I mean, what we can actually observe is that on a whole, like you said, there are exceptions, very few exceptions where like a young, healthy person will die from COVID or even get long lasting effects from COVID. Like that's not the most common experience. The most common experience is like, the human immune system beats the fuck out of this virus and we recover. Like, honestly, it kind of behaves like the flu, if I'm being totally honest.
It's a cousin. It's a cousin. That's the way I've been phrasing it, because they're all coronaviruses and they're a part of the same family. And and a lot of people don't know, but hey, the 1919 Spanish flu that everyone likes to keep talking about? Well, that thing is actually still around. It's just mutated. It's different. And we built immunity. And they showed people who got it had immunity 20, 30 years later, right? And people often forget with that pandemic, it was in the middle of the World War I. People were not being fed. They're immunocompromised because of stress, lack of nutrition. Not to mention it was dirty conditions because at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution. And people are not taking into factors that kind of stuff when they make these comparisons. And it's a common mistake, not just for this, is that you take 21st century ideas, moralities, ideas, technology, science, and apply it to a time where it doesn't work. They also didn't have the kind of globalized economy and travel that we had, which means it was far easier to isolate. You are not curing coronaviruses at this point in our medical technology. Unfortunately, I wish it was true, but it's very clear we do not have the medical technology for that yet.
No, this shit's gonna be around forever. Like just like the flu, it's gonna be around. It's not something that we can. I believe it's not something that we can just totally get rid of. And
at this point, I don't.
At this point, and I don't think that we should be allowing the government to make all these to take away privileges and to create a system where there's 2 different citizens, ones that comply and one that don't. And the people that don't aren't allowed to have
feelings, Matt. Their feelings, how they feel about themselves.
I mean, like the amount of virtue signaling I see through this whole pandemic is just like, it's disgusting, honestly. If you're someone who shamed someone for having a business open, or you reported your neighbors for having someone over for dinner, or you reported a business, like my business got reported. I know other gyms that got reported. Like, you are disgusting. This is Soviet level mind control, and you would have done perfectly in Soviet Russia or Nazi Germany. You are a useful idiot. You are backstabbing your countrymen from making a living. They put food on the table. This whole like essential service thing. I hate the idea of an essential service because, well, what is essential? Grocery stores, police, even though some people think that's not true. Hospital workers. Yes, we can all agree that these are essential people, but who's to say that my school is not essential to someone, or that a restaurant is not essential to someone?
Which, by the way, I know tons of people who got messages saying that without the training, their mental health suffered.
Me too.
And I know personally, or through other people, more people who committed suicide in the last year as a result of these policies than I know who even got COVID. Additionally, personally, I know more young people under 40 who were seriously hospitalized as a result of the vaccine. I know there are people who die of COVID. Obviously,
you're a conspiracy theorist.
I know, right? But you know what's fucked
I
up?
don't mean to be insensitive.
Yeah, no, it's me. I don't get offended easily. But I don't know what's true in BC because BC is not being honest with their numbers. They're hiding shit. But in Ontario, you know what they measure as an unvaccinated person is a person, and it depends. A lot of places do it a little differently. Is if you get a vaccine one, you're still considered officially unvaccinated for 14 days, and some places it's
Right.
14 days after vaccine two, which means anyone who goes to the hospital as a result of that vaccine and tests positive for COVID will be told to the public that they are unvaccinated. And that is the biggest bunch of misleading bullshit, which is causing people to genuinely believe that the only people spreading this thing are the unvaccinated. That is patently false. What is true is
Fauci said so himself.
Yeah, I know, right? What is true is yes, the vaccine reduces severity of the effects for a lot of people, but so does being healthy. And yes, that means unvaccinated people who are unhealthy will still end up in the hospital a larger percentage of the time than not.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
But it's misleading when you present this information the way they do, because I know tons of people like unvaccinated is spreading this, and they're treating it like a toxic leprosy. And it's like I can go look up studies all over the world that are saying vaccinated people are spreading it too. And if this is about the hospitals, then you need to admit there was a problem with the hospitals before this pandemic, and you refuse that the first responders, the nurses, are the worst treated people on the planet, and you keep pegging them with this ethical dilemma of the what's it called, that code they take. But I'm like, at a certain point, this is getting ridiculous. You can't keep treating them like garbage before, during, and after pandemics and not expect some pushback just because you're playing with the moral heartstrings of these people who sacrifice everything to be treated like garbage. And then you use their emotional hardship to convince the public to change their mind. It's like, fuck you. Like, that's I can't hear another ER doctor being like, but my ER, it's like, it's the ER. That's where they all go. That's a very skewed perspective. Because I can walk around in my universe and I don't see nothing. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it means your opinion of you're the one seeing all the sick people. That is your job. It's giving you a skewed thing, and you're stressed out because there's not enough doctors from before the pandemic, and because the medical facilities can't handle anything minorly over basic capacity, which was before the pandemic. And people don't want to talk about the failures of the system that made it a problem in the first fucking place. It's like,
like in Canada, we have a socialized healthcare system, and honestly, I've seen good sides of it and I've seen bad sides of it, you know. To be honest, I'm not 100% anti-socialist. I don't
think
like
it can be, but
I like the idea of a socialized healthcare system. I'm not, I'm not like 100% it should be private, but I think that private healthcare, we should have that option here to,
they just keep it quiet and you need a lot of money.
You need a lot of money to do it, right? And I've been in the ER waiting for like 8 hours to get an X-ray, like crazy shit, and it shouldn't be like that.
My famous one was the MRI when I tore my ACL.
Yeah.
The MRI wait normally is 6 months
Take years.
to a year. Yeah. Now I was a WorkSafe claim, so they can get it a little faster. But they ended up, because I was bitching at them so much, they sent me to a private MRI clinic, which the public system will pay for because they have spots, but they don't like doing it. And it's only because I complained, even though when I was sitting there at the MRI clinic, the receptionist picks up the phone. It's like, oh, yeah, we have openings all week. And I'm like, motherfucker. That was when I had a huge, wake up. And then I hear, during this pandemic, there's a Dr. Day who keeps losing his court battles. He's got lots of private clinics, who wants to get the restrictions gone. He said at the beginning of the pandemic, hey, if you guys are short-staffed for vaccines or other stuff, I have 16 clinics. I'll gladly help. And our wonderful overlord, who cares so much about our health, said, fuck you. Not like that, but essentially, fuck you, we're not working with you. And that's where it's like, are you serious? You're so obsessed with your socialist ideals. Here is a medical doctor with the facilities. Yes, it's privatized, but you don't want to admit there's a problem in the healthcare system, publicly funded one, which I do agree we need. Because for the main stuff, the big five, heart attack, stroke, it's wonderful. Broken bones, wonderful. Any soft tissue, not so much. Any chronic stuff that's not easily diagnosable, not so much. People with money, by the way, they go to the States or they go to the private clinics, regardless of your opinion on private public healthcare system. So it's like, this is silliness. We're not operating for an optimal system. they're actually, my belief is they're operating in a triage model, which is we have limited resources. We're going to do the absolute minimum we need to most of the time just to keep it operating. But in order to reduce healthcare costs in general, guess what we need to do? We need optimal healthcare, because obese people, by the way, cost a fuckload in the system and nobody wants to talk about it. Like someone was saying,
or it's fat shaming, right?
Yeah, the unvaccinated are costing my taxpayers money. And this was person I know for much of their life were obese. And I'm like, fuck you. Obese people cost way more for the taxpayer money. Listen, if you want to get up and help and get better, awesome. But if you're going to sit there and do nothing, fuck you. Like,
like I've had people who are overweight, basically tell me, hey, you need to get the vaccine or else
I'll die.
You're basically, like you're keeping the pandemic going. Basically, that's how they frame it. It's like they blame the unvaccinated to keep that's the reason why this is keep going. And if only they would if only they would get the vax, then then we could get past this. That's how we get past this.
Which is patently false at this point, and people still believe it.
And these are people who have never worked out a day in their life. Like, by the way, if you think that I'm fat shaming, go fuck yourself. I was fat in middle school. Like I've been the victim of bullying, racism. I'm part Chinese, right? Like I've gone through all this shit. And you know what happened when I got bullied? I lost weight.
Yeah, right. I did.
And people immediately started accepting me more, and I was healthier. And I was like, wow. And I'm not saying this works for everyone, but I was like, wow, bullying helped me. Actually, you know what I mean? Like it kind of like sorted itself out. And I was just like, wow, like people make fun of me for being fat. Maybe I should change my lifestyle. I did, and life got way better. But just look at the people who are dying from COVID. Usually obese people are the one, but
not they're usually, healthy. CNN, I recently posted, 40-year-old woman, healthy 40-year-old woman is dying of COVID, and she says, fuck the unvaccinated. And they showed a picture of this woman, and she's morbidly obese. I'm like, are you on crack? Yes. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why do people believe this nonsense?
So it's like we can, this whole woke culture where, where fat people are sexy and all this shit. It's like, it's just not the truth. And I don't mean to hate on fat people. Like, and I know you're not supposed to say fat. You're not supposed to say that. It's like, you know what? I'm not woke.
Can we say rounder than normal then? Fine. I'll say whatever defines it. It's still overweight.
Exactly. And these people are just unhealthy, and they do cost our system a lot of money. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I became very athletic after I lost all that weight. Because like, wow, I like this lifestyle. It makes me feel good. It makes me healthy. I feel like, I sleep better, all this stuff. It's just, I feel better when I look in the mirror. It's like, so that's a big reason why as well, I wanted to dedicate my life to a field of fitness. But like, if you don't think that I can't criticize someone for being fat, I mean, like, I grew up in the kitchens where literally everything was fucking, hey, you take it up the ass with this vegetable and shit like that. It's like, I'm not used to this whole politically correct culture. I never was.
Toxic masculinity, didn't you know?
Don't even get me started there. Don't even get me started there, right? Like, I think if anything right now, we need actually more masculinity. We need people who are willing to say, hey, I'm going to say an unpopular opinion, and I'm going to go against the narrative and go against the groupthink, and people are going to fucking hate me for it. And that's what's happened. A lot of people hate me. People will listen to this podcast. They'll be like, Matt, this is the cringiest thing you've ever done. Like, you don't know what you're going to do to your business. And I'm over here like, I know that the cool people are going to love it. Just like, we need people to be strong in these times because hard times are coming.
Well, actually, I think leadership, like I've seen people I thought were leaders just roll over and be unwilling to be vocal because I just want this to be over. And I think anyone who says, just do your part, or just this is what needs to be done, or it's a good citizen, I'm like, huh? Like, do you understand what you're saying by doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I just don't see it as leadership. Like, leaders are the ones who stand up and say, hey, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
People of all walks of life, including fucking doctors all over the world, are saying, hey, the way we're handling this is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's leadership, because doctors are willing to lose their licenses over this. And it's like, yes, this is a thing. People have died. I question the numbers personally, both for and against, depends where. Because guess what? Andrew Cuomo, that motherfucker, got thrown under the bus by the new governor who had released the numbers, and they lied about the old folks' homes by 12,000 people.
Yeah.
It was like
50,000, it's funny.
Not
this guy kills like 10,000 people, like knowingly.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. He gropes a few women. Oh my God, get rid of him. It's like,
which, by the way, he's been doing for years, and both behaviors are atrocious. He should be in jail.
Both are atrocious. But I mean, it's funny how, we care about one thing more than literal people dying. Yeah. And it's just, and anyways, that guy's a piece of shit. I'm glad he's gone. I've just come to the conclusion that any politician, left or right, whatever, is basically a piece of shit. if this whole thing has taught me anything, it's like, fuck, it's making a strong case for anarchy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's the way to go, but man, our government leaders, like, you gotta be like a narcissistic piece of shit to want to be a politician. And I think
just the longer they're in there, the worse they get, because they play the system. I'm doing air quotes, where, like, if you're there for 2-3 terms, that's one thing. But the people who are just career politicians, they don't care about anything but winning, and you can see it in the policies. Like,
and they don't care about sending people to wars or closing businesses. Like, it's all about their power, and all about how they're going to stay in power. And like, all these people who get so tied to political parties, like, I would gladly change my vote to any party depending on their policy. But some people are like diehard NDP, diehard liberals, or diehard conservatives.
And then they have misconceptions about
it's tribalism. It's crazy. Like, do you not have the ability to look logically at the policies and decide what you like? Like, don't identify yourself with a political party. They're all bad. They're like, I don't think that any of them are really good.
They just get rich off their own policies and then change the laws so they don't get arrested. Like in Canada's huge problem, even in the States, is ironically better than us for this, is that there's no real mechanism to get rid of a politician mid-term. Like, for example, our wonderful prime minister, from what I've heard, outside of his cabinet in his own party, they want him gone. But there's no way for them to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're all, there is, but they're all terrified of if it goes poorly. So they're all cowards because they all want him gone. The polls I'm seeing now for a Canadian election, I'm pleased that we're not going to have a Liberal majority. That's for sure. What the result is, I don't know.
Dude, Trudeau is like a new level of like, just clown. Like, holy shit. It's crazy the things he does. It's just, but I don't know, man. I can't say anything. Oh, I know he's so fucking hot. Totally suck him off.
But I say that because straight up, a lot of people, he's popular amongst women because they like how he looks. And this is not saying women are politically illiterate. It's that Canadians, as across the board, are politically illiterate as far as I'm concerned. So if you don't know who to vote for, you can be like, that guy's cute. Which is actually, I will give him this credit, and only this credit, that I appreciate a leader who is in shape, because the rest of them are unhealthy.
Yeah, and young.
Yeah.
I like how he's like young, he's not like Biden, who's like literally the crypt keeper. Holy shit.
Well, the G7 just threw him under the bus and said they're angry about the Afghanistan stuff. So I think the German G7 leaders basically just said, we can't trust America anymore for foreign policy. And that's like, what?
Oh, come on, man.
Like, I thought you hated Trump, and now you're outright saying we have no confidence in America's foreign policy anymore. Yeah. Like, what just happened here?
Yeah, I know.
It's
crazy.
But that's why I'm happy we're in the industry we are, because if shit hits the fan, we have skill sets that can survive. And people say it's apocalyptic or it's conspiratorial theory. And I say it's every podcast. We're in Vancouver. We could have an earthquake. You're on your own for at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. How are you going to survive that? You barely handled the toilet paper wars, but the martial artists are going to be able to handle themselves from the physical confrontation, at least, compared to the average person. It's things are being fun, I think, in the next.
My recommendation, if you and COVID totally showed this to me, get guns, guys. Get them while you still can. Start stocking ammo before it gets unaffordable.
I'm just going to put this out there. I teach the course to get your license. You can always send me an email, and I can run said course while we're still allowed to do it. But yes, get guns, because if you have a license, because we are in Canada.
Yes,
Don't do it
of course.
illegally.
Do it legally.
Yeah.
Do everything by the book. Learn safety first, and start preparing yourself. Because, like you said, like 2 weeks go by, like you could have people breaking down your door for food or
Now you
what
need to
or
hunt
supplies.
crows or something. You get a 22, you can hunt birds all day in a pinch. Yes, you can eat pigeon. In fact, I believe that's why pigeons were introduced to New York like 100, 150 years ago, because you can eat them. Now they're considered poison, even though it's like you can eat them if you have to. Not great. Like, growing up here in Canada with parents who are not very outdoorsy, and in the city, I should specify, I thought it was gross and weird, but then, with me and my wife, we go hunting the last few years, and we're like, oh, this is great. And it's actually not as gross as it's gross, but you're like the first time you got a deer, you're like, I guess I'm doing this.
No, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I haven't gone hunting yet, but like,
Yeah.
grew up fishing with my dad, gutting fish and, taking apart carcasses in cooking school and stuff. Like, it's something I think, honestly, we need to learn how to do just in case, it's like a skill set. Just like handling a firearm is something I think is an important skill set. And one great thing about firearms and ammo is they don't depreciate. It's always going to be, it's a simple working machine that's always going to be usable and valuable, and you never know when you're going to need it. And once you do need it, you can't get it. That's the thing. And as the days go by here, we're getting closer and closer to not being able to get them. So 100% do your due diligence in learning the safety behind firearms. But like, man, I'm very pro gun. I especially in times like this, like you never know if something happens. I want to make sure I can protect my family, and I don't want to be looking for a gun if the shit hits the fan.
Now, I will caveat on that. You need to understand what you're doing with the firearm, because if you don't understand what you're doing with the firearm, the delusions of grandeur, John Wick style, that you're all of a sudden going to be pulling that crap, you're probably going to shoot yourself.
Totally.
So you really need first.
Anyone who's shot a pistol knows how fucking hard it is to shoot a pistol.
And I'll preface
super hard.
Because I should put this in there as an instructor. You cannot legally purchase a firearm for self-defense in Canada. But if I look at case law, people have used guns in self-defense. It's not advisable. However, you can get it for sport shooting and hunting. But guess what? If society collapses, then you have
all bets are off.
It. Yeah, and then people seem to forget about that aspect, because you just don't know. And
you just don't know. Like, do I expect that that's going to happen? No,
hopefully not.
But I'd rather be trained and have supplies when needed than not have them and do need them.
Well, the earthquake in Vancouver is a specific one that is real and objectively possible in our lifetime. And I know if you have first responder friends, they'll tell you, if they're being honest, like, yeah, you're on your own for a while.
Totally.
But there's other things like the Carrington event. It was in the late 1800s, and if that happened now, we'd be fucked. It was a massive solar flare, and there's literally nothing we can do about it. We have more ability to potentially stop an asteroid than that at this point. So if something like that happened in our lifetime, with all our technology, some stuff will be shielded, like military stuff will be protected probably, and wealthy people will have setups that are protected.
For sure.
But the average person's shit is gonna be wiped clean in a massive solar flare with that EMP. This is a real possibility, and you have no control over it. You don't know when it's gonna happen. And toilet paper wars versus that, I'm like, oh shit, people are gonna lose it if all their phones die. Even a lot of cars won't operate with all the computer chips in them now. And people be like, this is conspiratorial, but I'm like, no, I'm not expecting this thing to happen, but it's a thing that can happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. Really,
and it's just smart, whether it's apocalypse or earthquake, to be prepared. So I just take this moment to say, hey, if you don't have like a month's supply of dry food, like you can get it from fucking, I don't want to say Amazon, because, but go online and buy yourself like a bucket of 2 for your family of like dried foods. Get a propane burner with a couple tanks of propane. So if something does happen, hey, we're gonna have food here, and I don't have to go forage for food when everyone else is going to be looking for food. And also water. Like, you should have basic survival supplies, and I think most people in the city don't have these supplies. So anyone living in cities, big metropolitan cities, they're going to be fucked. It's going to, if something happens, right? Again, that's a big if, but man, I don't know. I'd just rather be prepared. And you can call me conspiratorial all you want. I don't care. If something happens,
Well,
I want to have supplies for me and my family.
you know what's hilarious about that? You can always turn their own arguments against them. The people calling it conspiracy. So climate change is a thing. It's happening. I am of the opinion that we don't need to be catastrophizing and causing extreme anxiety and causing psychotic behavior. We do need
Agreed.
to innovate. We need to innovate and go green realistically, because it's, who doesn't want flying cars? I want flying cars, but we need better sources of energy to do that. So let's work towards the Jetsons. Come on. But their own arguments of the world is going to get harder to live in because of climate change, which in a lot of places is true. Vancouver is going to be a paradise. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's gonna get awesome here.
Then you got to be
Except
prepared
for the
for
earthquake.
these weather events. So being prepared for the skill sets is just, but from a pure survival, you need to feed yourself and drink water. But the people factor that people consider to, like, again, you saw how people behave during this, which I'm sorry was not that bad. I have no faith in people not going complete lunatics in a major.
Totally, man. I mean, like, and I've realized like how easily when something like this happens, I blame the media. A lot of the media, like the politicians and the media, the way the media can stir people up, like it's propaganda. It really is. Like these mainstream media outlets are basically propaganda arms for different political parties.
Yeah.
And I've realized that people are very, very susceptible to mind control.
Oh yeah. Well,
Or
as
at
I said
least-
with the vaccine,
or-
unvaccinated, how they're manipulating what's vaccinated and not is causing people to believe false dichotomy, and they're doing it on purpose. Right. That's the
Yeah,
purpose.
and it's being done on purpose. And I've realized like people don't think for themselves. Like they literally will believe what's on mainstream news. And when you do that, you create division and that's all that's going to happen from this vaccine passport is it's going to be a society where like there's going to be literal segregation. And the interesting thing is it's, the left wants to go and virtue signal for people of color all the time and racism.
And they're
it's
the
like,
most fucked for this.
they're the people that are going to be the most fucked. Like if you look at the people who don't want the vaccine most in the States, it's black people.
They don't trust the medical system.
They don't trust them. They don't trust the government or the medical system, and they have a damn good reason not to. Look at the Tuskegee experiment and everything like that that's going on. Like I wouldn't want it either. And you should have the freedom to choose not to. Be like, I understand the risks of COVID, and I've weighed it out in my mind, and I've made this decision for me, or whatever. And I mean, here you can't even get a medical exemption. So if you have
to me, that's medical malpractice.
That's the most fucked up thing ever. Like if you're over 12 years old and you have a condition that where your doctor says, okay, I don't want you to, I think that this vaccine isn't safe for you. And I know that's rare, but for those cases, you
have to stay in your home until
you have to stay in your home.
Yeah.
And you can't get a medical exemption. They just say, yeah, you shouldn't be going to these places anyways. Like, are you guys fucking insane? Yes, you are. It literally just like segregating people based on vaccination. I was in a gym owners group, like a
Allegedly,
COVID group. Oh yeah, were you in that too?
Yeah. I pissed everyone off because I was telling them allegedly to grow up and like do something, stop talking, and do stuff.
Well, they were saying, and I'm not going to name who, but they were like, what do you guys think about students coming in unvaccinated? Like, and then one of them was like, oh yeah, well, the unvaccinated people, we have them, they can drill in the corner or whatever, and then they can't train with the rest of the general population. And I'm just
in
like,
the same room, guys. You fuck out. You don't understand anything, dude.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you guys are fucking insane. Like you. And I told them, I was like, you can do that. If you think that that's worth, because they were worried about legal liability and shit. If someone gets COVID and dies, can they?
I have a COVID waiver, so fuck off.
So do I, and that doesn't mean that they can't sue you, but still, like the chances are so low, right? And I'm just like, well, as a business owner, you can start to ask people to show their, and this is before the vaccine passport, right? You can ask people, oh, okay, are you vaccinated or not? But just realize there's going to be a lot of people that don't want that. And they're gonna go somewhere else, and send them my way.
Allegedly,
like send them my way if
what
you
I
think
think
it's
is
worth the
going to
risk.
happen.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and this is me virtue signaling online, being like, hey, if your gym owner, is asking for your vaccine passport and wants you to train in a mask and won't let you, and you have to socially distance, like, just hit me up, DM me, and you'll have a great place to train. And these people are like, oh, Matt, you're acting like a child. We're trying to talk about
We're trying
this.
to protect people.
We're trying to
so am
yeah.
I. I'm trying to get them healthy
to,
and keep them sane.
Exactly.
Fuck.
We're trying to be adults here. You're acting like a child. And I'm like, guys, I'll say it one more time. If you want to do this, that's fine. You're going to have people leave. Send them my way. And then I just left the group. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Well,
like, fuck.
Because you said you're off Facebook. Let's just say there is a group now that started with, when I joined, it was like 5,000 people. In 3 days, it's like almost 60,000, 65,000 people who are outright rejecting the passports. And businesses all over the place are saying we're not enforcing it. Even people, I've seen interviews of people, even people who are like, everyone should get the vaccine, but I'm not the police. Like, what are you doing? So you're gonna see all that's gonna happen is, let's say you're a restaurant that's already hit hard. And as you know,
probably the hardest out of all of this.
A 10% difference in customer base is the difference between success and bankruptcy. If you just pissed off 10% of your clientele, who are the people who've been going out this whole fucking time because they didn't give a shit, the people who are still terrified are still sitting at home, not giving you their money anyway, you're going to be fucked financially.
Yeah. And that's where I hope the free market kind of solves itself, Like, I think that what we need to do with these businesses that are, you can't sit here or you can't do this if you don't have the passport, say, fine, fuck you, make a scene and don't go back. And then, we're going to see the free market, if all goes well, will even itself out, and that if you're someone, you're going to ask this 18-year-old hostess at a restaurant to card someone, the kind of stress you're going to add to that girl's life. They're going to have people fucking
quitting,
shitting down their throats, being like, I come here for the last 15 years with my family every Sunday, and now I can't come here because I don't want to. Like, it's going to be a nightmare.
They haven't thought this through at all, because they either have to go full Gestapo. Like, you have two options: back off, or you do what we're saying you're probably going to do. That's why a lot of us are worried. You don't. There's no middle ground. Otherwise, it's just going to be a complete clusterfuck. Yeah. I mean, there is a middle ground. Go to the businesses. If you want to go to a business where do that. You go to the other one, but you are dividing society.
100% dividing society.
This is not going to go the way they think it's going to go. Like in France, first of all, France, they riot over everything. So when they're like rioting and people are like, oh my God, look what they're doing in France. I'm like, they do that every week, first of all. And unless it's like 2-3 million people doing it in France, then I'm like, eh. But what people started doing in France is they're straight up having picnics outside in front of restaurants that they normally go to. Yeah. Or in Russia, where they're not really using the Western vaccines. They're using like the Chinese and their own, whatever the one that's not the most effective at all.
And I was going to say the ones that work.
Yeah. They work better. I gotta be honest, they work better, but they definitely don't do what we're being told they do, for sure. But they basically, everyone said, fuck the passports, stop going to all the businesses. All the business owners in Moscow were like, we can't enforce this. That's why Putin is like, but Russia's different, because Putin will be like, if he wants people vaccinated, he'll make sure that, but they basically spoke up and said, we're not going to businesses, fuck you. Now, different mentality in Moscow than here, obviously. Vancouver, not as bad as Toronto, but anxiety-ridden left-wing lunatics who don't understand that you're projecting your anxieties on other people and with your demands rather than dealing with your own fucking mental health problems, which I am all about the mental health solutions. I dealt with it myself. But that's not my problem, that you can't feel calm about yourself and demanding that I do X, Y, Z because you feel unsafe. You stay home, not me. Like,
exactly. It's all about freedom and personal risk. And like, we can just observe through the last few years how COVID's been. There is not bodies in the streets. This is, I mean, if you can't see that this isn't, if you can't see that this is overhyped, I mean, at this point, you're just not going to see it. Right. And that's where I really am, like you said, like I kind of lose faith. I'm just like, fuck, there's just some people that are so tribal that they can't change their mind. And for me, just so everyone knows, so they don't think that I'm being tribal, like if all of a sudden there was a mutation and we started seeing
bodies drop, right? Yeah.
bodies dropping left, right, and so if the mortality rate like just grew, I'd be like, holy fuck, guys, okay, like this is way different. Now we actually need to, like, I'm very, like, I would be, honestly, I would be pro forced vaccination if we had something that, and you know, and the mortality rate was super, super high. Fuck yeah. I'm not willing to, like, I'm not so stuck in my ways that I won't change my mind. That's the thing. And I'm transparent about that. That's why I'm talking about it right now. Like, I have no political affiliation and I'm not set in my ways. But when I see something, when I see big government trying to sneak in and politicize an event and capitalize on a what's the word? Disaster.
Yeah, which they do all the fucking time. Hillary Clinton all the time. Gave it away. Never waste a good crisis. Fucking
that's it. A crisis. Never waste a good crisis. Like, I'm willing to call that out, and I don't care, friends and family. If you guys think I'm crazy, go fuck yourself. I'll find a podcast that wants to talk about this shit. You know, it's certainly not going to be BJJ mental models. That's for sure.
You said it, not me. I did not say that. But yeah, it's like that's censorship stuff to me is like this. Okay, as a Jew, I want to know that guy's a Nazi over there, like a literal Nazi, because hey, I'm not gonna go over there. But guess I know in modern times the actual Nazis in a place like Vancouver, they don't show their faces because everyone hates them. But I want to know they're there, so I'm not gonna go over there. I don't give a shit. Like, you're a fucking moron. You stay over there.
You support their right to be a Nazi. Do you not?
Well, I think it's absurd, but I'm not gonna like.
Right, but you think that like that they should have the freedom to believe what they want, even though you disagree with it, even though it's disgusting and horrible. Like, you don't think that they should be rounded up and fucking sent off.
As long as they're not committing serious crimes, like if they actually are committing hate crimes, like, I mean, physical ones in action, right, that's a different story because you just broke the regular law. But exactly, to me, the idea that you can control everyone, it's only going to end up in the Nazi or communist era style.
Exactly.
Putting people in camps that you can't, unless you're prepared to do that, which morally Western society has said it's not okay with doing.
Yeah.
So far that I can see, but who the fuck knows? You can't.
Yeah, that's next. Is
everybody.
That's next is detainment camps for the unvaccinated, right? Like,
that
would
actually be constitutionally illegal.
Dude,
so we'll see what happens.
I mean, that's fucked, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. Guys, if you see that they're making internment camps for unvaccinated people, please start doing something. Please let that be the fucking canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get there in Canada. I think what I'm seeing with even the vaccine card thing, people are like, this is too far. I know they're like, they said on Monday in British Columbia, there's like 700,000 people not vaccinated. That's like a third of your fucking province. So, I mean, I don't know how they think this is going to go. They haven't thought this through numbers-wise. If it's like 5,000 people, then that group is not a significant number anyway, so why the fuck would you force them? And if it's 700,000 people, like, how are you planning on doing this?
It's almost like they're trying to implement a social credit system by force, like China, disguised as a crisis.
All right. Yeah, that's gonna.
Anyways, I'm gonna get so much heat for this podcast for so many fucking things. Anyways, I don't care. If you follow me on Instagram, On Guard BJJ, it's my business page. I post great memes, jujitsu techniques, as well as personal opinions that are very unpopular amongst most woke individuals. Well, so check out my business page.
Don't feel bad because, you know, a lot of the stuff I say is very similar, is different but similar. I've had people of all ages say, I've never heard that before, meaning they're surrounded by the same idea over and over again. And then they hear what I'm saying and they're like, huh, okay. And that's why you need the freedom of thought and choice, because again, the idea that one group knows best is wrong. And actually, for the best possible outcome for humanity, you need different groups and ideas, because things change. You need different ability to change and pivot, and someone else's idea might be better than yours. What I don't understand about progressive ideologies is we're seeing in real time in the last year or two that progressive ideology policies fail pretty quickly and spectacularly as compared to other ideas.
Like, they destroy cities and culture.
And then say they're doing something useful.
Anyways, so we could go fucking on. Like, I feel like this could actually go for another like hour and a half.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I know you have to go. Any parting words, final thoughts?
Again, I'm just going to give the advice that I was given as a kid. Do what you believe is right. Stand up for what you believe in. If you see something and you want to question something and you're not qualified to question it anyways. Open discourse. And even though we don't have it here in Canada, freedom of speech is an important part of Western civilization. Without it, we're not going to reach the same. We're literally denying science if that's the case. We're denying the scientific process, but it's important to question things, think for yourself, do your own research. I recommend be very careful about your own biases. I try and be aware of my biases. I always am changing my mind on different things, even though people want to label me whatever for however I think. If you have a business, strongly recommend you go against the passports mandates, the mask mandates. It's time for us to actually just stop complying. I'm not going to be hiding anymore in my business. The door is going to stay open and until it gets too cold to keep it open because it's wintertime. We're going to train with the door closed. And I recommend just put freedom before anything. Put your personal liberty, especially your own bodily autonomy. Put it over everything. Because where does it end? We're always told my body, my choice, for the Roe v. Wade debate, and I can get on board with that. But man, if I don't have the choice over my own body in this case, and I'm going to become a second-class citizen because it's time to start speaking up. It's time to start speaking your mind. And if you think that something's right or wrong, speak it. If you're pro-mandatory vaccine, speak it. Speak your mind. I support your right to have that opinion, even though I disagree with it. And I think that that's the mindset most people should have.
Sounds about right. So if people want to contact you for, what was it? Prohibition style training. How do they do that?
Well, check out my Instagram page, On Guard BJJ. I got off Facebook because it's a fucking echo chamber of shitheads that I don't want any interest in. Just check out On Guard BJJ in the Pitt Meadows area near Vancouver. I'd be glad to have anyone. I don't care about your political affiliation or gender or race. All that shit is just divisive. Just come out if you want to have good training. And of course, I want to thank you, John, for having me on the podcast. Yeah. It was a real pleasure to actually just talk and be able to talk about controversial things. And I think moving forward, these controversial conversations are going to be very, very important in the next few years.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thanks for coming on, taking the time out of your day to be here.
Yeah, sweet. Let's do it again.
Oh, for sure.
You're listening to The Warriors Day. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions.